Welcome, everybody, to the Broker Life Podcast. This channel is dedicated to give you the greater insights into the real estate and mortgage industry in Canada by diving deep into the minds of the professionals who live and work it every day. Today's guest is Dave Ozubko, Realtor at ReMax Rivercity in Edmonton, Alberta. I've known Dave for about 6 to 8 years or so. Dave has been the recipient of many awards, including the ReMax Hall of Fame, Rookie of the Year, Rising Star, and Lifetime Achievement Award. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, man. What's up, Mark? How you doing, bud?
Good, man. Thanks for popping on. Let's dive right in, man. Let's start with the why. Why did you get into real estate? Why real estate?
Well, Mark, I was a hospitality veteran for 20 plus years. I was 40 and just realized that was a space that I could no longer have that passion towards the lifestyle, the late nights, working every night, every weekend, every long weekend, etc. So I wanted an exit strategy, but at the age of 40, I didn't have like a formal certificate, a diploma. I have a couple of years of my ed degree, but being a school teacher wasn't something that excited me. And real estate was something that I had always been interested in. I thought it was a fun, opportunistic space where you could kind of create your own identity and have your own autonomy. So I looked at some colleagues that I had worked with in the hospitality industry for years growing up that had exited and got into real estate, that had done very, very well for themselves, established a good brand and a good book of business. And I figured, what, if I jump into this thing head first, pretty hardworking guy. I understand there was going to be some risk involved, but I figured, what, if they could do it, I could do it. So, long story short, that was the moment where I said, what, I'm going to go all in on this thing. Exited the hospitality industry, gave myself a little bit of a transition period to build up some business. And shortly thereafter, was able to bring my wife on board full time. And we've been working together for full time for 14 years now.
You guys have been crushing it for 14 years together as a team.
We still get along too.
It's actually interesting because I feel like the hospitality industry is almost like a precursor to real estate. Like, it really sets you up. There's so many skills and things that you can pull from being around people and managing people. And I know way back in the days when you were running Cowboys, I didn't know you back then, but I was a patron of Cowboys quite often. And just the whole setup of it, man, like you're constantly just like, I don't know if entertaining is the right word, but it feels like managing people and managing like sometimes what I would imagine to be stressful situations. And you have like years of that, not only just at like Cowboys, but certainly at restaurants and other places. And so now you're working with people, making really tough decisions, buying and selling homes. Seems like a really amazing transition.
I'm very, very grateful for the 20 years out of hospitality that I was able to gain a wealth of experience in terms of relationships, networking, marketing, managing a business, managing people, really, really tough. And people get into the industry thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to be the greatest real estate agent. But a lot of them often forget to ask themselves, where's my business going to come from? Where am I going to find my buyers? Where am I going to find my sellers? How do I gain those clients? Because, without buyers and sellers, you might have a real estate license, but at some point in time, you're going to need a paycheck to pay the bills. And we only get paid once, deals kind of close. So that's the big part of it, is having the relationships, the book of business, people that you can reach out to and ask for the business. And then all of this stuff prior to, with the problem solving, the management, all those key pieces have been very, 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 very helpful in our success and establishment in the industry. Like, we got in 2000 and I was just checking my little ReMax things in 2015, and we did pretty well really quickly. But again, I was in a position where I didn't have any other options. I was head first, all in.
You've done well. Let's talk about what, like, sometimes I think people, especially first-time homebuyers, don't know exactly what the role is of a realtor. So like, real simplistically, like, just to break it down for like the first-time homebuyer, like what is your role in the process? What do you actually do?
Great question, Mark. And we deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, and we really enjoy working with first-time home buyers because there's a lot of excitement and emotion. It's a first, and it's a big process, right? So we're kind of like that guiding light to help people with that process, from getting the mortgage pre-qualification to getting a search set up to look for all the homes, helping them know and understand the market and great communities, not so favorable communities, giving them all of the information so that they can make a best decision for themselves and their family and find their ideal home. And then obviously there's a ton of stuff involved with, checking market evaluations, going through a home inspection and ensuring that there's no surprises. You've got to deal with a lawyer to help complete the sale and everything else. There's so many little pieces. And in our industry, as you know, things can go wrong and do go wrong all along the way. So having, a bit of experience and skill set to kind of meander or navigate through these uncharted waters is certainly very helpful. And I think, for one thing, that's been really nice for our first home buyers, is that we can help them get through this stuff to allow them to get into home ownership.
Any particular reason why you chose ReMax over other brokerages? It seems like there's so many brokerages popping up all the time. There's the big three or four. Why
Yeah.
ReMax?
Initially, I chose ReMax, and I've been a ReMax agent, and I just switched brokerages literally a month ago from ReMax Elite to ReMax Rivercity, and I won't really get into that. But my choice for ReMax at the beginning was its location. They had a great office. There was people in the office that I could use as mentors and collaboration to learn. And there's some new brokerages that are opening up, and they're all kind of like virtual people working from home. And for me, that's just not the kind of environment that I'm going to do best in. Like, I'm in an office with 20 other agents. There's collaboration, there's camaraderie, there's competition, there's culture. And for me, that was a driving factor in wanting to be with ReMax. And you know what? You could go brokerage A, B, C, or D and maybe save a few $1,000s along the way. And there's people that do that. For me, it was like, I want to get in with a good brand. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to work here. We're going to establish ourselves, and this will be our roots. So that's why I've chosen ReMax. And honestly, ReMax has been very good to me, to my wife, to our team, and has given us a ton of opportunity with our growth.
Is ReMax the biggest brokerage in Canada?
I would think so.
I think so, right?
Mm.
You
I
hit
know
a
where we're at now. We're at the biggest ReMax brokerage in the city, and there's 270 agents that are licensed out of ReMax River City, which is super exciting.
That's amazing. That hits home so well for me. My mortgage journey has been, I'm on my fifth year as a broker. Before that, people may not know, I was with a big bank for about 10 years. So I've been in CIBC, that's right. And CIBC, just like ReMax, are really big brands, right? Everybody knows who the banks are. Everybody knows who ReMax is, really across North America, probably the world. It's a big brand. And when I first got into the brokerage game, I was with a smaller brokerage. And that was, 3 years there, and it was really great. And then since linking up with Mortgage Connection, the past two years here, I mean, their credo is culture, collaboration, community. Like, it's posted everywhere. And after meeting the three owners out of Calgary, this team is incredible, and it reminds me of what you're going through at ReMax River City, and it just reminds me of how important it is to be with a bigger, not even bigger, but just a really sound culture that takes care of the community, takes care of each other. I think our brokerage is over 100 agents now, and when I started 2 years ago, it was like 70. So like it's massively grown as well. So I love that, man, and I think that's why you and I have always worked well together. Is we both kind of get that piece.
And it's not for everybody, Mark. There's some guys that are going to these virtual brokerages, and there's a couple cool ones out there that I think provide opportunity for the right people. But for me, this was just more about a good fit. And my wife and I, we work together, as I've said, and like, we need some space to keep our relationship healthy. So me having an actual office and her working from home was probably one of the better ways for us to kind of allow that to work.
We won't get into that. What's something that most people don't know about Dave Ozubko? Give me a little secret or a hidden gem or something.
Um, I'll share a secret. I don't know if it's a big secret, but I'm 5.5 years grateful recovering alcoholic, which for me has been one of my biggest moments and proudest moments, to go through that recovery and to be where I am today. And it's truly given me a life that I didn't know was possible. It's been absolutely amazing, and it's been good for my relationship, been great for business, and it's made me a different person today.
And let me tell you, man, I've been watching your journey and you look great, man. There's a picture you posted recently of you like 5 or 10 years ago to now. I mean, you're shredded now, dude.
I was in 2017. I was just up around 260 pounds, and not good 260 pounds. It's like a bag of milk. And today I'm right around 200, but I've got an active and healthy lifestyle at the gym, running sometimes. And I've got a greater appreciation for life today, the outdoors, and just everything that's in front of us because of it.
Now, let me tell you, what are some of the habits that you formed for you to remain so successful in your personal life and in business? Because, like you said, that's a really great story you just shared, and that takes a lot of like dedication, I'd imagine, discipline, but also on the business side. I mean, you're constantly one of the top achievers with ReMax. Just give me a couple, couple habits that you've sort of adopted or put into put into place.
It's a competitive industry, Mark. And if you want to succeed, you gotta like commit. And it's with anything. If you want to be good at something, you got to commit to your craft. You've got to put in the time. And from at the very beginning, it was a matter of getting on board with every additional education class that was being offered, whether it's from the real estate board through ReMax. There was a ton of like mastermind groups, training sessions. I took all of that stuff. I took everything that was available, and then as I was learning from some really great people like Paul Blade, Jeremy Amuat, the Mike Coalition team. Those were people that were all in our old office where I got shop, and I was able to learn and ask so many questions. And then with that, I've established a pretty tight routine. I might sleep in now a little bit more than I used to, but typically I'm a 6 a.m. riser. I'm at the gym by 6:30, at the office by 8:30 for sure, working on stuff. I'm very, very dedicated to the craft, but one thing that people don't realize, like when you find something that you actually enjoy doing, it's really no longer work. And as cliche
Mhm.
as that sounds, I've found something that I really enjoy that gives us autonomy and opportunity, and I'm able to help and serve others. So it's been awesome.
That's Steve Jobs there, right? That's a
Yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Jobs quote, I'm pretty sure. And lastly, on sort of the personal side, do you have like an inspiration or someone that was influential in your life, or um, what kind of drives you?
I was looking at this question last night. I was like, how am I going to answer this? As a young kid growing up, my dream and aspiration was always to be the World Wrestling Federation's heavyweight champion of the world. And I almost fell short of that goal.
My grandpa would have loved that. He was big into the WWE.
But I guess who was really influential. Many people wouldn't think that the hospitality career would have done that, but when I was with the Cowboys group, Penny Lane Entertainment, I think they're called today, the ownership there did a ton of education on business systems, process. They brought in guest speakers. We went to the Walt Disney Institute. Like we learned a ton of things, marketing as well. So I got to say those guys were really really influential and encouraging. And I was a kind of a young jackass back then, but we had management meetings every week. I had to drive down to Calgary every Tuesday, have the meetings, come back, work Tuesday night. So those guys, that group was very very impactful on where I am today for sure.
I'm asking that question. It's a tough question, but I went through a seminar a week or two ago, and the speaker was asking us sort of the same type of question. Who's your inspiration? And one of the big takeaways from that meeting was um, when you're hosting business meetings, to tell more stories instead of getting right to solutions. And me being a mortgage guy, a bank guy, I'm always jumping to solutions. It's like, here's the rates, here's the payments, we can save you this much money. And then through that, he kind of made us think about maybe a couple of people who are inspirational, and then like work that story into basically like a value prop, right? Like, why do we do what we do? What's your inspiration? Why are we the way we are? And so for me, it was like it was my friends and it was my mom, right? Just that journey. But I love that, man. That's it's funny how people kind of shape you and then you end up where you are because of your experiences. It seems simple, but it's so like vital. And us having young kids, I'm thinking about that all the time. You know,
Wow.
who are my kids going to be around? Are they going to look up to me? Are they think I'm cool, or is it going to be like they're going to
Well,
rebel?
your
So
kids
it's
will think you're pretty cool. You're one of the cooler dads out there, that's for sure, Mark.
okay, man. Let's jump into some industry stuff. So I think people will find this stuff interesting because it's a really interesting economic time. You've been in the industry since 2015. I've been in the industry for 15 years. Like, I feel like this is the first time in a long time that that there's just a lot of questions in the world, but certainly with the economy. I pulled up a couple stats the other day. Um, Average price in Edmonton is down 12% year over year. The average price is currently 349,000. Now I found a couple different numbers. I found some other site that said it was like 360. Um, and in general, if you kind of look at some of these trends and charts, like, man, I tell you, like, we're both from Edmonton. The house price right now seems to be like a pretty balanced, reasonable price in Edmonton going all the way back to 2014. I'll see if I can post this chart up at some point in the video, but what's your take on, um, I guess, the current state of real estate and where you might see it in like 5 to 10 years? I know this is a loaded question, but you're a pro. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I would agree that there's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, whether it be with politics, war, the financials, and everything else. Lots of things happening that are just beyond our scope, and I just got to take it for what it is and control what I can control. Now, the housing pricing here in Edmonton is one thing that I think is really um, favorable for at least me and our industry right now, because with that uncertainty, there's a little less activity. But we're seeing here in Edmonton, like, unit sales from January, February, and March so far have gone up considerably, and the migration numbers into Alberta support a very strong housing economy as we go through this time. And I think right now we have three for sure, potentially four out of town buyers, three that are young couples that are moving here from east and west because they can't afford to buy real estate in Ontario or British Columbia. There's no entry level for them, and they have decent jobs, but they're not earning 200K as a household to even get into that, and that will just get you a bare minimum house. So, what we're seeing and what we're dealing with right now is a lot of inquiries and calls from east and west. This was very similar to last year when the market was humming and things slowed down in the back quarter. But this first quarter, as we're heading into the spring market, I get the feeling and indication that we're going to see a lot of increased buyer activity, more migration, and I think we're going to see in the next couple of years our housing prices really increase based on people moving here and needing homes.
So what I'm hearing is it's a good time to buy a home in Edmonton.
Yeah, 100%, man. I like, we went into multiple offers last night again with a client on a $650,000 house. It went to market on Wednesday. We showed it Wednesday afternoon. We tried to buy it Wednesday night. No luck. The sellers wanted to wait. So we were able to scoop it up yesterday, but there was five other offers, and this is on a $650,000 house. And we're seeing it even more so on the stuff under 500. So I think this is an indication of where our market's going to be in the months ahead this year.
That's a question I get all the time is it a good time to buy? Rates are obviously elevated. But when you look at a place like Edmonton, I think you nailed it, man. Like, there's a saying out there that I heard recently. It's marry the home and date the rate, because the market in Edmonton is really reasonable. And I've got all sorts of numbers here for other markets in the country. I mean, the Lower Mainland average home price is over $1 million. Victoria over 800,000. Even Calgary is over 500,000. And then you go out east and it's just nuts, man. Like 600 million, 500, all these different communities. So Edmonton is this nice, really sweet spot. And with the migration that you mentioned, I agree, man. I think there's going to be a bit of a boom in Alberta. And this hits home personally for me. So I like that a lot. And honestly, with the rate situation, if the real estate prices are going to potentially increase in the near future in Edmonton, there's strategies that we can do on the rate side. You don't have to lock into a 5-year fixed, and we'll get into that. That's probably a whole different podcast. But I like that, man. What do you see as the biggest challenge right now in real estate in Edmonton? Doesn't seem like there's a lot because it's a
Yeah,
good market, but
I'll share with you candidly, the biggest challenge that, me as an agent and our team is currently facing or dealing with is low inventory. We typically carry 15 to 20 listings. We love the marketing, the sales approach, and everything else to that. And right now I've got one, two, three, four, five, three of which are under contract. Um, and I don't have a desk full of listings that are going to be coming to market. Like, we're working to try and get those appointments to get in front of sellers, but the inventory levels are low. So that's what we're dealing with right now in terms of a challenge on our end. And then I think for the buyers, it's just the realization, and I love your analogy of date the rate and marry the home. People are still just kind of coming to terms that this is where the new interest rate levels are going to be. Their affordability may have went from 500 to a low 400. So the quality of home that they were looking at last year to where they are now with these new rates has been a bit of a challenge. So there's a lot of client management and emotional management and helping everybody just kind of along the way with the process, because there's so many questions that people have, and you want to make sure that your clients have the right information and are able to make the best decision for them and their family with all of that.
100% agree. I was looking at some other stats in regards to the rates, and I did a 150-day moving average on the 5-year bond yield, and rates are currently below that, which would indicate that it's kind of a bargain given how rates were and where we are. So yeah, I think Edmonton is a special little pocket. Very affordable home prices. Rates have certainly been discounted the last month. They've been trending down the last 3 weeks. So I think Edmonton's is primed. On that note, when you're meeting with sellers or buyers, but if you're meeting with sellers, how do you approach valuing a home? Sometimes like I'll always go back and say, well, it's got to be comparables. It's got to what is everything else selling for it, and that's what sets the market. Is it easy as that, or is it a little more complicated?
Pricing pricing a home is very intricate. There's a lot of pieces to look to that valuation. Sellers always want to get as much money of their home as possible, and often there's value put on things that aren't tangible, like their grandkids growing up, and their kids got married in the backyard. Like, that doesn't matter. So market comparables are certainly something that we have to look towards or look back at. But sometimes, there might not even be comparables that are similar to the house that we're trying to price. So you have to expand your search. You have to look at what's available for current inventory. Condition of a home, in my opinion, is one of the key drivers on assessing value, because truthfully, a lot of the houses nowadays for sale, they're not in the best condition. There's lack of pride of ownership. Things are kind of run down and neglected. Like, people want to see a home that's been cared for, that's loved, and got good energy. So those homes that just show that type of maintenance, care, and love are always going to achieve a higher sale value. And there's a lot more demand. So the pricing of the home is very, 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 very objective. And the house at the end of the day is only worth what somebody's willing or prepared to pay. Timing is also a thing. Like, sometimes we've had houses for sale that have sat. We'll take it off for 30, 60 days. We'll reevaluate it. This just happened to us last year. We'll put it back on at the same price and it's gone. Am I any better of an agent today than I was 2 months ago? Probably not, but timing's changed. There's more buyers that are shopping.
And I imagine the market itself dictates the price a lot. If you're in a recession versus an expansion, like, that's totally going to factor in how many people are buying homes versus not, right? It's like just supply and demand almost. You were talking about inventory levels. That's a huge factor. If you got 6 people bidding on one home, that's just naturally going to drive the price up. So you're just going to value that home more, right? So that's interesting. Would you say?
Maybe they'll just jump in, Mark. I got to give myself a little plug while the opportunity's here. We're talking about pricing.
Please do. Please do.
Our average last year on all of our residential listings that we sold was 99%. So that was 99% of list price. So if you were to look at a $500,000 house that we had for sale, we were getting 495 all day long. So we try to price our homes smart. We don't want to leave a lot on the table because an overpriced home is what helps well-priced properties sell. It's important to get bodies in the house, and people will often overprice their home and they'll want to negotiate a lot. But if you overprice the house, you may not even get an offer to be able to negotiate. So we're kind of the mindset, let's price it smart, let's price it hard, let's not negotiate, let's get it sold. That's how we look at it.
Yeah, that's what the sellers want at the end of the day, anyways. And I totally get the being a homeowner, I get the unrealistic expectations listed for $1 million, but it's worth 700. Like, yeah, you got to be realistic, and that's where your value shines through, right? If you don't have a professional sharing the stats, sharing their experience, how do you know? Like, I mean, you're really just guessing. That kind of leads into this good segue of timing. This is a question that I feel like comes up every now and then. Best time to buy a home. There's the seasons, there's, drastic seasons in Edmonton with the really cold winters, really warm summers. It seems like in general, I've doing this a long time, spring and summer is when people generally buy homes. But I'm kind of hearing that maybe the winter is an opportunity as well. What's your opinion?
Well, from a buyer's side, I think it's really, really important to identify, like, when are you ready? What are your current life commitments? Are you in a fixed term rental that has you in there till December? Well, if that's the case, there's no point shopping in May unless you want to buy a house and carry a rental at the same time and have double the payments. So in terms of this seasonal like ebbs and flows, people that are purchasing in the winter are usually a little bit more committed. There's a reason why they're moving. The acreage buyer, or someone who's looking for bigger pieces of land on the outside of the city, well, I wouldn't recommend that they buy that in the winter, because we're not going to be able to see the land, and that's what people want to buy out there. You can't see what's happening underneath all of the snow, so that would be a recommendation. But for the buyers, like, it really depends on when you're ready and what your goals and objectives are. Like, sometimes it'll take 3, 6, 12 months to find the ideal home for someone that checks all of their boxes. But if you've got a flexible timeline and you've got everything in place, your mortgage pre-approval, we're kind of actively searching the market, and there's a good property that suits your requirements, that fits your budget, and all of the other important priorities that are involved in this purchase, like, then now's a good time. But if you're in a position where you're having to purchase something because of the timing, like, then that's sometimes where you make decisions that you're going to end up regretting.
I like that. So really, buying a home is essentially available to you 365 days a year. There is no good season, right? If you're motivated, you're pre-approved, and you're ready, then buy the home, right? Especially in a market like Edmonton, where the price doesn't really fluctuate that much, right? I mean, it's not Vancouver or Toronto. That makes total sense.
People will often think spring is the best time to buy. Spring's a great time to buy, but there's more spring buyers, but there's also a little bit more inventory. So it's kind of relative. We've had a lot of clients jump on this earlier this year to get ahead of it. And I think we've done them a good favor based on where I feel the market's going to go in the next couple of months, right? Nobody wants to overpay for something or get into a bidding war. As a buyer, that absolutely sucks.
So what's one tip that you would give somebody looking to buy a home for the first time?
Right now?
Yeah.
Hire a professional. The market that we are in is not going to be very favorable for your Instagram realtor or these TikTok sensations. Like, right now, if you are serious about buying, you need to hire a seasoned professional that knows negotiations, that knows the market, that knows multiple offers, that's going to be able to navigate and help you get from browsing to owning, because there's a lot happening right now.
Yeah, that seems actually like, go ahead.
Interview a couple agents. I mean, I'm a firm believer there's got to be a good fit on both sides. Whether you're spending $200 or $800,000, the agent that you have represent you is going to be with you from beginning to end, and there's got to be a high level of trust, communication, knowledge, experience. Like, it's got to feel good. Don't necessarily just go and hire your cousin's friend. Like, that might be okay, but do a little bit of homework.
Oh man, that's my biggest pet peeve. Yeah, we have a realtor, cousin's a realtor, or my best friend's mortgage broker, and then it's like, okay, that's cool. You want to support your friend and family, I get it. How many deals do they do, or are they experienced? And it's like, oh, they just do it part time, or they just started, and you're like, okay, like I can just tell you where this is going to go down, and that's the conversation that you have to have with first time buyers and explaining how valuable experience is when you're buying the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. I mean, are you going to trust your newly minted licensed cousin versus an experienced realtor broker? I mean, it seems obvious, but people are emotional, making emotional decisions, and that's where experience comes into play. I like it, man. I want to ask you about technology because over the last 2 years, COVID happens, and then the world shuts down. Canada certainly shuts down. Everybody's forced indoors. Then there's this like emergence of technology. Look at us doing a Zoom call right now, right? This is something that's stuck for the last 2 years and is certainly embedded in my business right now. And I probably pay for, I don't know, 5 or 6 different services that are all technology related that help me be more efficient. So I'm just curious to know how technology's helped you in the real estate business. Any favorite pieces of technology, or just any broad statements about what you're dealing with now?
Great question, Mark. And the whole industry was deeply disrupted with COVID and everything else, from lawyers and virtual showings.
Yeah.
And that was just what we were living in 2019 and 20. Um, we've embraced technology. Like, I'm 49, so I'm not the youngest cat out there. Thankfully, my wife's a little bit younger, who's more tech savvy than I am. But we've used this to elevate our game, to become more operationally efficient, to allow us other ways to service our clients, potential clients. Um, like electronic signing, we've been doing that since basically it was allowed. But there's agents that will still do like the pen and paper. Like, we're able to negotiate, get contracts signed if our clients are away or we're away. Um, and then there's a whole new world with this digital era of marketing, YouTube, Reels. We've had to really step up our game on that, because all of the buyers and sellers are shopping on there. And if you're not present or relevant on there, good luck. You're gonna get lost behind here. So we're trying to keep up with the trends, and on top of all this, as much as we can. It's extremely challenging and stressful as well.
I'm going to share your website at the end of the meeting here, and I think people will see if they follow you on social media or your website. You're heavily integrated in social media and technology. And one of my favorite things that you guys do, which seems so simple, is just your real estate video tours. When you're showing a home and presenting that home, I know you have a team that handles this for you, and it is top notch, man. And a lot of people are starting to do this now, but just think back, like, what, I don't know, 5, 10 years, and it was just like pictures. You're just looking at pictures, and you're like trying to make a decision on buying a home based on the picture of the living room and the kitchen. And it's insane to me that people would be like, I think that's enough for me to make a purchase if you're perhaps out of province or something. But now the way you guys are filming these properties with drones and everything, like, it is pretty incredible, man.
I really pride ourselves on our marketing and presentation on our clients' homes. And I think that's one of our strategic advantages or differences than most others. We started this too, Mark, in 2017 was when we just started doing our video tours. And, I look back at them and they were totally crappy, but we were just starting something out back then that hardly anybody was doing. And, through that course, we've been able to adapt and evolve. And, now our position on it, and we did a team meeting at the end of 2022 and identified, where can the Dave Sells team grow and get better? And we're like, let's double down on social media. Let's step up our video game. We've been so busy servicing clients the last couple of years that we didn't take the chance to, work on us and work on our business. So that's where our focus is now. And, I'll revert back to my wife again, who's got a real strong creative background with design and everything else. So, we've been able to incorporate that. And for our clients and for the presentation and the marketing that we're able to offer, typically it stands out quite a bit. And that's what
Nothing.
buyers are looking for.
Oh man,
People eat
nothing.
with their eyes.
Nope, nothing worse than seeing a listing, and it's at nighttime and it's taken with an iPhone and the pictures are dark and you're just like, I'm immediately on to the next listing. I'm not even like giving that 10 seconds, man. It's like, if this is the realtor that's listing the home, I could just imagine the shape of the home and stuff. So yeah,
It
that's bar none one of my favorite things about the Dave Sells team.
it blows my mind that sometimes we're going through and we're booking showings for our clients, and we're looking at the property photos, and it's just like, did anybody look at these before they went up on the internet and say, hey, this is not a good idea? Like, can we
Yeah.
not do any better here? Like,
Yeah.
we get paid pretty well in our industry to do a job. And it's like, hiring a professional photographer, in my opinion, should just be a table stake. That should be a must. But everybody cuts corners, everybody wants to save a buck, and that's just people in life today, I guess.
And that's the importance of doing your research, like you said. Make sure that you're shopping around and look at your realtor's work, right? Just go to their websites, look at their listings. Do you want that realtor to list your home? So it's pretty straightforward. I want to talk about new home construction. Last week we had Chris Bernard on. Shout out to Chris Bernard at Coventry Homes in Edmonton, and he's a area sales manager. And we talked about the building process. How do realtors can realtors help clients look to build a home as well without going directly to the builder? What kind of value can you add there?
Solid question, Mark, and it's a service that we provide and do quite regularly. Many people don't realize that we are able to represent them on a new home custom build process, whether it's with Coventry, Homes by Avi, maybe it's an infill builder. But our ability to represent them throughout the process can be very, very helpful. Like, people forget to realize and understand that the individual or person that's working in the show home or the sales center, they work for the builder. Like, they're there on the builder's behalf to try and capture and get as much money out of the client as possible. They've got incentives, they've got targets. Our job as the industry professional is to go through and look at, what does that cost? What are other homes gonna like look at the same type of fit and finish for a construction standpoint? We're able to negotiate on their behalf. And there's a lot of builders out there that do offer, a tremendous amount of incentives. But you got to ask for them. You have to learn, like, who does what, like what builders offer this. So there's a lot there that for the person to go into the show suite and just buy that house from the builder, you're putting all of your trust into them to ensure that everything's okay. Like, people often don't even read or understand the sales contract with the builder. Like, I would have all of our clients have that professionally reviewed by a lawyer so they understand exactly what their commitments are. And what happens if this build is delayed 6, 12, 18 months? Who's responsible? What happens then? Because that's been our industry for the last couple of years.
That's interesting. Now, you can help with resale homes. You can help with new construction homes. What other areas? What's the broad scope of homes? Or in other words, what can't you help with? Because it seems like you can basically assist with any kind of style of home or
Yeah.
stage of
Well,
financing.
we do refer out business in situations where we're not the best fit. I've got a commercial real estate license, and I've only been involved in a couple of commercial deals. So when somebody comes to me for that, if I can't help, I'll refer that out to a colleague who I know is going to be able to give them quality, skilled, reputable service. If I'm not familiar, I'm not going to take it.
Yeah.
Right? We do a boatload of residential in the city, lots of stuff within kind of Edmonton's River Valley is kind of our hub. Surprisingly enough, Mark, we do a lot of rural acreage type properties. I love that stuff, believe it or not. The drive and the commute to 30, 45 minutes out of town may not always be the most enjoyable, but you can see some beautiful properties. We've done new construction condo developments. We've worked with builders in the past and helped them with the listing and the sales of all their homes. So there's really not much that we can't do, but there's certainly things that we do better at.
I like that. So essentially a broad scope of everything.
And we've got one thing that's nice is we've got a fairly diverse team now. So my wife is licensed, Sarah is licensed. So between the three of us, we've got 3 licensed individuals. We've got a ton of complementary skills that they're good at that I suck at. So between the 3 of us, it's just given us a lot more depth and a lot more coverage.
One last question before we jump into the speed round, which is the fun type stuff. You're talking about you're essentially representing your clients when you're buying or selling their home, right? I mean, I know there's double-ended things that happen, but essentially, if someone comes to you and say, "I want you to buy my home or sell my home," you're representing them. And so, if they decide, "I want to build a home," you're still representing the client. This is exactly what I do as a mortgage broker. And this is unlike what I was doing when I was at CIBC as an advisor. I was still helping the clients, but I had CIBC's best interests in mind. So, what I'm curious to know is, and this is a little bit of a plug, but how can mortgage brokers help you succeed uh, on your day to day buying and selling homes?
Oh man, there is a big difference from a really good mortgage professional, mortgage specialist, than the average mortgage specialist or somebody that's working in the bank. You know, Mark, to put deals together today and to actually get them across the finish line, at the end of the day, people hire us, people hire you to get things done. We have to be problem solvers. We have to, work within the boundaries of the law and our responsibilities. But you got to learn how to put things together and how to make things work. And Mark, you and I have went on some very difficult deals, and you've proven your ability to shop these rates, shop the lenders, find creative ways to provide solutions, and effectively communicate through the entire process, which, as a realtor, we need to know what's going on so we can kind of manage the play. If we're representing the buyer and we've got like a 10-day contingency period on financing and we're having some issues, and it's like day 10 conditions are due, and the mortgage broker calls us and says, yeah, we're having issues, we're going to need an extension. What's the seller's agent going to say? Probably, why didn't you tell me sooner? Like, what's wrong with you guys? So having that proactive conversation and communication allows us to kind of deal with the situation and ask for that extension if necessary. So, I always encourage our clients to work with one of our preferred mortgage partners. And Mark, obviously, you're on the top of that list. And I would encourage anybody to avoid from working directly within the bank, the bank person, and no insult to people working at the bank, but they're typically Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They've got a ton of sick days. We've been in situations where that banking representative on our condition day has the day off, and we don't get that information. There's nobody working on their behalf. They're not answering their phones at 7 or 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night when we're in a dire situation to get some documentation for one of our clients. So I would avoid the big banks. I would interview interview a couple mortgage specialists. But yeah, there's a big difference between a qualified, skilled mortgage professional than just somebody who's got their mortgage license.
Amen. Well said.
Hopefully, I didn't
That's
go on too
that.
long.
That's fantastic. There's nothing for me to add there. You nailed it. I just like hearing it from someone who's not in the mortgage industry, because there's just so many hoops we got to jump through sometimes, and sometimes it's just as simple as communication, and it goes both ways. I mean, uh, I only choose to work with realtors who have high communication standards and levels, and um, I think you nailed it there, man. It's there's just a very big difference between the service, and I know it because I lived it. I was in the branch. I was one of those people that would check out at 5 on a Friday and then not worry about that application until Monday at 10 or something. Meanwhile, there's all this stuff going on in the background. So I love it, man. So let's turn our attention to have a little fun here as we end this meeting. And I like to call this just a speed round. This is just something fun and light to sort of, I don't know, just end it with a couple laughs here. So I'm just gonna ask you, I don't know, 10 or 15 questions here. This or that, you can reply however you'd like to. And just to see where this goes. So first question is house or condo?
House.
Any reason why?
Yeah, condo fees, special assessments are always going up and up. Resale is
Yeah.
also super challenging. There's good buildings, there's bad buildings, and unfortunately, there's a lot of newer construction condos that haven't been built that well. And at the end of the day, come a responsibility for the owners. So yeah, house all the way.
House is king. Lift
If
weights.
if that's in your budget.
Lift weights or run?
Well, I'm a big weightlifting guy. I've incorporated running, but if I had to choose between the two, obviously weights. Running's way too tough.
Just have to ask your wife Marie about that, right? For people who don't know, she's like a basically a marathon champ.
Yeah, she runs quite a bit.
She runs a lot. Sugar or salt?
Sugar.
Me too. Morning or evening?
Mornings, brother.
Yeah, you're a morning guy for sure. BMW or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Me too.
Yeah.
Where is your favorite vacation spot?
Hmm, that's a fun one, man. Maria and I, we love to travel. That's one thing about this industry that's given us the ability to travel and get our life back a bit. Uh, Somewhere warm, sunny, tropical is always our preferred, but I think a couple of our go-to spots nowadays is Arizona's great. Palm Springs is a ton of fun. And in the wintertime, we love snowboarding, and there's some great mountainous terrain in our backyard that is 4 or 5 hours away that we just absolutely love in the wintertime.
If you could, this is kind of a similar question. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, our travel experiences have basically been limited to kind of North America, United States, Mexico. Like we haven't gone the other way, and we're gonna adventure and do that later this year. So if I had to choose a place now with where I've been, it would be somewhere in Mexico, but Mexico is a pretty sketchy place to live, so I don't know.
In pockets,
But
yeah. There's
I
there's
would
good
love to
pockets.
I would love to set up shop in somewhere warm, tropical destination, get my real estate license, and just serve Canadians moving south. So that could be the long-term plan.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I know the answer to this question, and I'm curious to see if I guess this right. Who's your favorite sports team?
Los Angeles Kings.
I knew it. I need to know, where did this come from? Because I know you've been a Kings fan a long time. Why the
Yeah,
Kings?
you know what, man? It's weird. As a young kid growing up, hockey was in our family a little bit, but I never played hockey. But I love the LA Kings uniform. They used to have this purple and gold jersey. They had this crown on the front chest. My mom and dad took me to a lot of the LA Kings games when they came into town, and I've just stayed loyal to that. So it's never been about Wayne Gretzky or anything like that. It's always been about that. And I've even been to a couple LA Kings Stanley Cup games in LA. So I'm a diehard Kings fan.
Big Kings fan. That's awesome. If you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a deep question. I don't know.
Top of your head, top of your head. Just first one that comes to mind.
Oh man. Mm, if I could have dinner with anyone alive or dead,
Would it be
I'll say Jim Rome.
Jim Rome?
Yeah,
Good one. That's a
yeah,
really good one. Yeah. He's like the
yeah,
king of motivation, right?
yeah, yeah. He's got some great stuff. Just strategic, practical, common sense. Yeah, I love his stuff.
It's a good one. I love that one. What music do you listen to these days?
You know it's crazy, dude? So if you were to go through my phone, it's all like '90s hip hop. I was like that kid in high school where NWA and Eazy-E was out, and I still listen to that stuff. So I love kind of that old school West Coast, East Coast rap. EDM I also really enjoy. And then from my days running a country bar, I'm also a big fan of some great country music. Something about country music puts people in a good mood. Everybody's having a good
Yeah.
time, and it's always a positive vibe. So those are my three genres that I really like.
Especially in summertime, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really into rock and roll lately. Like Dire Straits, Salt and the Swing. I've been like getting into some like old classic vinyl stuff, and that's usually not my jam. I'm definitely hip hop, electronic as well, even some acoustic stuff. But it's funny how you just kind of like. That's why I'm wondering, because people kind of go through life and they have these different vibes of what they're feeling at the time, and so you're consistent with the '90s hip hop, which, by the way, is an amazing decade or so of music
I
for.
know, but there's no new 90s hip hop coming out. It's all
No,
been
there's not.
released. It's like, how many times am I going to listen to the Notorious B.I.G., right? It's like, come on.
Yeah. Um, might be an obvious question. What's your favorite season?
Summer.
Favorite meal of the day?
Well, I typically do intermittent fasting, so I stop eating at 10 o'clock at night. I typically don't eat till after 2 in the afternoon. So lunch is usually fairly light, but I'm a big heavy dinner guy. I love to pig out at dinner, man. I can eat.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Superpower. Right now, I would have the superpower of do you remember the video game Spy Hunter?
No.
Okay, well you were this car and you were driving and you could like oil slick people, you could run them off the road, you could like do all these fun things. And right now the drivers in Edmonton have gone bananas. Everybody's going like 30 kilometers under the speed limit. It's just insane. So if I had like one superpower, I would literally have Spy Hunter where I could just ram people off the road and not hurt them or cause any damage, but I could still keep moving forward at the speed limit.
Interesting. Very
Or
interesting. Some people will say fly or like unlimited strength, never die, but you just want to get to the next listing appointment.
or you know what, if I could stay 49 right now, I'll be honest, the 40s have been really, really good to me. I would love to kind of stay where I'm at right now because life mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually has been very, very fulfilling.
That's a
So
good
if I
question. I
could
should
just
have.
kind of slow down the clock right now, that would be number one.
I should have thrown that one in. What's your favorite age? So you'd say like 49. Like if you could live 49 for the rest of your life, you'd be 49.
Maybe 40, mid 40s.
Mid 40s, really?
Yeah, I was a little stronger and had a little bit more energy in my earlier 40s, but 49 is still pretty good.
Man, I think I have to say late 20s, early 30s for me, for sure. I mean, you're still in that invincible stage where, but you're also not very wise, you
No,
know? Yeah.
get shit figured out a little bit later on. You're not making the same mistakes as often.
Yeah. Oh, totally. The amount of not regret, but just mistakes that I have a feeling that men probably make more mistakes than women. Because men are just stupid in their 20s. Like,
Reckless,
oh
right?
man. Yeah, reckless. Last question. Where can people find you? Online or
Dave,
otherwise?
very, very accessible. DaveSells.ca is our team website. My phone number and information is posted on all of our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. We've got a channel there that we're growing on. So we're very, very accessible if somebody wants to engage in a conversation, whether it's about the real estate market, buying, selling, you name it. Always here to engage in that.
Amazing, Dave. Thanks so much for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
Mark, I'm glad to do this for you, man. I wish you great success with your podcast and looking forward to another spectacular year working with you and your team over at Mortgage Connection.